We will now go over study problem 6-10 from our textbook. Let's figure out what's going on. We have two companies, Jasmine and Solomon, and we would like to compute the holding period returns for these two companies. We are provided data for 4 periods. As you recall, the holding period return formula requires you to have the previous period, end of previous period prices as well. So it would be the final price minus the initial price divided by the initial price. In that sense, we can actually calculate the holding period returns for periods 2, 3, and 4, and that's exactly what we are told in the problem as well. Let's do it very simply for Jasmine first. So the holding period return for Jasmine first for period 2, let's say, would be equal to period 2 minus period 1 price divided by the period 1 price. Well, the period 2 price is $11 minus the period 1 price was $9. Divide everything divided by $9. $2 over $9. The dollar signs would cancel each other out, and we would have 22.22%. So that would be precisely what we would get for the second period, 22.22%. In a similar way, it's possible to calculate the period 3 return, which is simply the price for the third year, which is 10 minus 11, all divided by 11. Ultimately, we would get a minus 1 over 11, which would give us minus 9.09%. Finally, for this one, for the fourth period, 13 minus 10 over 10. That one's pretty straightforward, 30% even. So these three values would be the holding period returns for Jasmine. In a similar way, we can find, so this is the holding period return column. Holding period return for Solomon can simply be calculated as well. So 28 minus 27, everything divided by 27. The dollar signs would cancel. I don't have to worry about that. 1 over 27, which is 3.70%. Here it would be 32 minus 28, everything divided by 28, the initial price, the previous price, sorry. 4 over 28, which is 14.29%. And finally, 29 minus 32. Obviously, the value of our investment declined, so that's why the negative return that follows 9.38%. So now when we sit back and look at those figures, they make sense, right? So look at what happens as we move from period 1 to period 2 for Jasmine. The stock price increased. As a result, you have a positive holding period return. As we move from period 2 to period 3, we see that the stock price has decreased from 11 to 10. That's why we have a negative sign here. And another increase followed, so you have a positive sign afterwards. And the same rules would apply for Solomon. For the second period and the third period, we can see an increase. However, during the fourth period, stock price declined and the following minus sign as a result. So the second part of the problem is asking for an interpretation for the holding period return. So we can basically say that the holding period return indicates the rate of return you would earn if you bought a security at the beginning of a time period and sold it at the end of the period. So as a result, you would get the holding period return for a month if that period is a month, or you can get the holding period return for a year, so during that holding period. So that makes perfect sense. So reinterpreting these numbers again for Jasmine from year 1, so for period 2, so we are in period 2, we are buying the stock at $9, and should we sell it, we can sell it at $11 at the end of period 2, and we would get a 22% return on our investment. And similarly, you can interpret the other numbers as well. So that would be all for this solution, and we are done.